Hello everyone, welcome back. Friends, today we are going to see something about a global energy use and future demands. The reason behind this topic is because we know that energy is being consumed globally widely. It is one of the main source of energy, that means it is one of the main source of consumptions of energy which has created the country and made into a form of developing, developed or underdeveloped form. Henceforth, it becomes very priority for us to understand what exactly is the idea of particular country, of particular continent or of particular developing area to consume the energy and what are the future demands of this country. Also, one of the criteria for looking behind at this topic is very simple because in past lectures we have seen the idea of energy, its uses, its conversion method, etc. etc. And we find that we are being using the energies rapidly by just consuming it, extracting it without knowingly and unknowingly of the fact that we are not developing it back. Henceforth, it is also an important criteria to understand that it should be reduced, reused, recycled and recovered. When the 4 R's are being qualified or when the 4 R's are being very muchly referred in our system of utilization of energy, it becomes easy for any country to become a developed country. Reason is because unless and until you do not reduce the use of energy, one cannot look forward for the economic development. As well as you have to put forward all the components which can be reused, and of course you should reuse these components by recycling it. Most probably each and everyone should try to recover the material. For example, if you are in need of particular thing very urgently, then only it should be purchased or then it should be utilized. Rather than if something which is not that necessary for you people can be, if possible, recycled and then reused. So that is one more concept which makes us understand the idea of global energy uses and consumptions as well as what are the future demands of each and every country. Also, in today's lecture, we will try to understand the ultimate source which is being developed for the energy. Now, what do you mean by an alternate source or ultimate source is there should be some extraordinary source material which should be present so that whatever the extracted material, for example, like we have seen in the fuel consumption, so we are extracting out the fuel consumption from the earth crust, but think about it that there is an ultimate or alternate energy which makes the energy consumption comparatively very low because it is one of the form which is present in a natural source. It is one of the renewable form of source, and the same thing we are going to look forward today. So let's start with a very basic idea of what do you mean by energy. You have a very clear idea when you talk something about the energy. Like when it goes with the idea of energy with regards to physics or basic idea of energy with regards to definition in concern with physics, we find it is something related to a quantitative property. That means one amount of energy is being transferred to another amount of energy or to another object of energy. Now, what do you mean by this? That means unless and until you transfer one kind of energy into an another object, you do not or you are not able to define an energy as a property. So if a particular object is there, that means it is in a kinetic form, it is having a kinetic energy, and if you push that object, that means it has been converted into a very good kind of energy by application of mechanics to it. So that becomes a basic definition of the from the point of view of physics. But when we look from the point of view of living system, the energy is also required at a greater part as compared to that of any of the non-living object. Okay. For example, when we talk something about a living organism, we know the population of living organism. Maybe it is from a microscopic organism to a macroscopic organism. It is very vast. So to fulfill this kind of system, to survive in this system, one of course requires the energy. So to stay alive is the only part of a living organism which requires the energy. And this energy of course will be provided either in a form of a renewable patterns or non-renewable patterns, what we have seen in the early lectures. So if you have not gone through the early lectures, I would rather suggest that you should go with something of renewable and non-renewable resources back. Look forward for the lecture so that it becomes easy for you people to understand what I am telling you right now. Why is it called as one of the efficient source of energy? That means one of the efficient source for living organism is because it is one of the efficiency developer. That means it is a main goal of any energy to be reduced, reused, and so that the products and the services can be maintained. So what our purpose for today's lecture will be to understand what amount of each and every country is being utilizing the energy in what forms. Also, we are going to try from this particular concept, that is how the products and services are being maintained by the source of future consumptions of the world from the point of view of world itself, not only limited to our country, but also we will see what exactly can be an alternate source for us as well as for all the countries, and what amount or in what percentage we have developed in these alternate sources. Thus you can see this chart. So I know this chart might be a very complex form of chart at right now for you people, but just try to understand the table so that it becomes easy for understanding the description which is being given further. Let's understand one by one. You can see that the chart is something related to world's total primary and energy consumption in quadrillines. Okay, so it is mentioned basically in a form of quadrilline. So it becomes understandingly proper that the energy consumption we are going to talk is not something not in a form of hundreds or crores or thousands or maybe lakhs, millions also. It is something in regards to quadrillines. As well as you can see in the table that regions are being provided. Now why are we talking about these typical regions only is because of the reason they are being divided into form of a continent, as well as it is being studied on the basis of energy consumption of these countries. Henceforth, these are the priority regions which are being put forward before us. You can also find that particular year is being mentioned from 1980s to 2012. Now even though we have moved very forward, but only a chart as of 2012 is being available for us. Although it has been up to 2012 only, one can remarkably just classify that a particular area, for example, the Asia and Oceania are being one of the regions where the energy consumption is very huge, right? So this energy consumption is increasing rapidly in these countries. For example, you can see in 1980s the energy consumption for North America was 91.6. On the other hand, now it was regards to Asia and Oceania, it was something only related to 48.9. On another hand, when we come to the time zone of 2012, we can find that energy consumption of North America is only 116.2, while that of Asia and Oceania is 202. This shows that particular area is developing or consuming the energy at a very rapid state. So we have to understand what is the exact idea of these regions, or why is these region only occupying particular amount of energy in a huge consumption rate. So for your reference, I've just given the same chart side by side so that it becomes easy for you people to understand by explanation itself. Let's start. So when you see the chart, you can find that there is a high rate of, like I have explained, there is a high rate of development or use of consumption of energy, especially when globally. Of course, this will be called, or this will be talked something regards to globally in the Far East and Oceania regions. Now, when you go with the Far East and Oceania regions, that means you can find that usually the use depends upon the economic prosperity of the nation. Okay. So when we talk something about the economic prosperity of the nation, for example, that of the North America, which includes the countries or sorry, regions like Canada or United States, or for you can go for Mexico. Or on the other hand, when we go something for the Asia and Oceania, you can find the areas to be included in these areas such as Japan or Australia or China or India also. So you can exactly think about it when I mentioned the region with regards to North America and the Asia is just for the reason because the consumption of Asia and Oceania, that means Far East Asia and Oceania, is more or found to be more gradually increasing with the increase in year, is for the reason because we people or the countries are being highly populated in the state. Okay, so the high population reflects the quality of the life and the people living in the country, and henceforth the energy consumption over here in these countries or these regions is comparatively more that to that of the North America. Similarly, when you look at this complete figure, you can just find that the per capita of this complete digitalization, that means this complete numeric system, you can find that the per capita has increased in around 30 years, around 30 years. Also, this if you place in a graphical form, you can find that there are a lot of regions which have a per capita income very high, right? If you place, just try to place it in a graph form and you'll find that you can have a per capita which is rising only. It is not getting low down. But the actual fact is, when you just try to calculate from a person's point of view, that means when you calculate a person consuming energy, you will find that this is comparatively lower in state as compared to that of North America. Okay, that means the even though the Asia and Oceania are seems to be controlling the complete system of energy consumption which is very high as compared to North America, yet when a single person calculates or a single person is being for example calculated on the basis of Asia of North America, you will find the person in North America is consuming more energy as compared to the Asia and Oceania. So that is actually a very big difference. For example, you can consider the North America person, a single person might consume approximately about 250 of energy consumption as compared to that of Asia and Oceania, which is only consuming of 50%. Then again the idea comes, if it is so true, why is it that still Asia and Oceania are being represented with the high digit number, that is 202? The answer to this is very simple. Let's go with the answer by taking a single example, that is China. We can find that these countries like the countries of China is one of the top countries in the world in energy consumption. So in 2015, the calculated amount of energy consumption was around, that is 119.62 quadrillion. On an account, they have calculated that it has increased up to 22.38% of world consumption. That means you can find that it is one of the country which is developing. So you might have got the idea why the countries like Asia and Oceania are being shown to be rise or using more amount of energy as compared to other countries. You can also find that the few of countries are being developing, and these countries are consuming the energy at a higher rate, and these countries of course are America, Russian Federation, India and Japan, which has been calculated that 53.53% of energy of these four countries or four regions itself. So you can just compare and imagine that four countries combinedly give you 53%, 53.53%. On the other hand, China itself is singly using 22.38%. That means you can just have an idea that the total world's primary energy consumption what to in 2015 was estimated was around 534.57 quadrillion, which is very more as compared to that of the country in 1980s. So that is something related to the energy use. That means we have got an idea that the countries which have a more population and the countries which are developing, the countries which are developed are using more energy. Now this energy use is something with regards to per capita of the country. Similarly, if you just try to understand with regards to that of the country person, you will find that as compared to developed countries, underdeveloped countries or developing country people are not using that much of energy. It is only for the sake of development of the country where the utilization is carried out. Now let's understand, if we have to go with the future, that means it was something related to 2015 which is being calculated or which was being defined. If we have to go something with regards to the future, what would be the idea or what would be the source of what would be the exact ideal source for the energy consumption? So the IEO has given the idea, 2017 has given the idea with regards to the energy consumption of future of the country. So basic idea given by the US Energy Information Administration, international energy outlooks from the with regards to 2015 to 2040, a time span. They calculated that the energy consumption of the country will grow up to 28%. That means whatever the energy we have seen right till now, that means 534.57 quadrillion what we have seen in the early slide, this will grow by 28%. And this is just an approximation, friends. You should always keep in mind that these are approximate ideas. This can vary or from a gradual interest. If the country is trying to develop at a very rapid rate, this can also increase. So this is just an assumption given by the institutes. Also, they have shown, that means they have mentioned a very typical idea, that this energy consumption will be more in the states which are non-OECD. That means the countries which are which are not involved in organization for economic cooperation and development. Now these are the countries which are called as non-OECDs, which of course, if you see, it includes the countries like China and India. And they say, that means the IOE is saying that it is the country like China and India which will increase the consumption rate by 60%. Of course, because we know that we have a demand for the growth, and because we have a demand for the growth, the country like Asia is trying, or sorry, the continent like Asia is trying to take part in one of the areas of development, and for this we need energy. So that is basically the idea behind energy consumption in the futures. They have also said that they have means IOE 2007 projects have also said by the 2040 the average consumption will be 2.3% faster. So you can just imagine that it is per year. So it will be 1.5 for a per year, and this becomes very fast. According to the sources which they have calculated, it also says that renewable energies will be a fast growing area, as well as a nuclear power plant. That means it is one of the fastest growing sources for the developing countries like China and India. So they say that the marketed fuels, this renewable sources will be more in demand. They will be rising at a very rapid state, but expect the one cause, that is the coal, which they have found to have a less demand as compared to that of nuclear and renewable resources. So that is one of the, just again the same thing, approximation. It is not as full final. You can't give a complete stamp for it, but actually it is just an approximation which they have tried to give you. Now then the question arises before us, that if you are using the energy rapidly, if you are using the energy continuously and without trying to again redevelop it, like I said in the starting itself, that you have to reuse it, what should be the ultimate source of energy for the future, because of course we know that we are not reusing it, we are not recycling it, we are only consuming it. So of course there comes a part, and the part is there should be something called as an ultimate source, which will, of course I'll be saying it in very simple word called as alternate source. So this is something with regards to the renewable resource which we have seen earlier also. And this renewable resource what we have in the countries, or rather we can say that every country is being using it very gratefully, very developed formally, is called as the sun, wind and the water energy. So when we look forward for these energies, they have a very typical condition. That means they are one of the form of renewable resources. So it can be easily available. Next one, why the future of these three is having a greater part is because they can reduce the carbon dioxide production. So it is one of the emission. So it is one of the form of the energy which can reduce the which will of course eliminate out your carbon dioxide or reduce the use of the carbon dioxide. It will not generate that much of carbon dioxide as compared to that of the fuel consuming sources. So that is one part. It is one of the flexible kind of energy. So depending upon your area where you are living, it will of course range from area to area depending upon the geological and geographical circumstances. These energy have a bit differences. But the actual thing is, even though it is decreasing or even though it is completely having a fluctuating state, you cannot say that this energy is one of the source of energy which will degenerate. It will not happen. The next important and interesting part when we talk about such a kind of renewable energy is that it actually captures the mechanical powers and then converts it into an electrical powers. So it becomes flexible for us because we know we are engineering people and we can do anything. So when it goes with a technology part, you know that you can convert the energy. You have the power to convert the energy. So you just need to capture it, then effectively use the technology and then try to convert it into an power generating sources. And of course this kind of energy is one of the challenge to develop the capability, because this kind of energy has a challenge reason for us because it is one of the most unexpensible form of energy. You only need to develop a good kind of technology to actually convert this sources of energy. And because it can be stored, it can be easier in form. Henceforth, the Photovoltaic Industry Association has said that the solar energy will provide the energy to billions of peoples, and according to them it was 2020, that means the same year. According to them the 2020 will be consuming about 26%, or sorry, billions of people will be consuming something of solar energy, will be using it very effectively like Asian countries also. By then they have also calculated that by the 2040, that is 2040, this energy resource will increase by up to 26%. That means one can understand very easily that when the solar energy is being effectively used, it is going to show you good results, because it is of course something which is a non-pollutant source of energy. The second form of energy, which is of course not gradually, rapidly growing in our countries also, is something regards to that of the hydroelectric energy and the wind energies. Now, reason is because the wind energies and hydroelectric energies are something which are commercial in form. So they can also provide you something called as the economy for the country. The wind energy especially are something which is collected from the wind farms, and here in the wind farms you can find just the mechanism that hundreds of turbines, which we call as windmills, okay, or you can also call it as wind turbines. They are placed in an open plots. Of course you need a good quantity at a good height open plots, and then especially the coastal area parts are more of interest for this kind of energy generation. So when you have a good mechanism of windmills, you have a good quality of windmill, of course the generation of the energy will be at a very good part. But when you go with a hydroelectric power plant, you have some different method as compared to that of the wind plant. That means if for hydroelectric power plants, we know that there is a creation of the dam, and then after this creation of the dam, which is acrossly going all over the countries, you have to convert this form into the energy. That means the water source will be trapped into the form of energy and then it will get converted. So this basically gives you the energy which is a factor for the growth of the country. So like countries like the India is also developing because of these sources. You can also just keep in mind that it is one of the factor. That means tidal energy is one of the important factor which is more of compared to that of hydroelectric power plants. More of, I'm not saying exactly, but it is more of compared to that of hydroelectric power plant, and it is being one of the developing source from the 1990s. So it is also one of the source which is being developed very vastly. The futuristic source which we also find is one important, that is biomass. Biomass is something that is burning of the plants and organic matter. So we know it very clearly that when you burn something of the for to get the energy in a which is available to you naturally in a form of a plant, so dry, like we have seen something in the last lecture about straws. So it is wood or straws. So it is one of the natural source or organic matter. So it is one of the earliest source also. It is one of the easiest source available to the man for the generation of the heat and the power. It is one of the easiest source to be accessible around you. So it is one of the source which is not that expensive for the people also. Henceforth, around of about 1 to 2 billion of people in the developed country and in developing countries also are being using the woods as the primary source for the conversion of energy or for obtaining the energy. That means where on one part we are trying to talk something about the solar energies or wind energies to trap these energies, there are part which is using the energy which is in a form of a nature, that is the biomass, which can be actually converting the energy. Rather than converting the energy, we are directly using it by burning it. Henceforth, we are not using it at a correct mode. So the final note for this complete would be that you should reuse, recycle, so that it becomes easy that all the available energy, maybe it can be a renewable form or it can be a non-renewable form, it becomes easy for you so that your futuristic goals can be achieved. Okay, so I hope you people have understood up till now what I have told. And just for a quick revision, we'll just say that we have seen something about the global energy resource. We have, when we saw something about the global energy use, we have just tried to compare. It was just a comparison. By no means, of course, you should keep in mind that it was just a simple comparison for one of the developed country and one of the developing regions. So just a comparison. So we have studied something about the global energy use. Next, we have seen something about the future energy consumptions of the country, and we have come to the point according to the IEO 2017 that it is the countries like the non-OECD, that is Asia, maybe a China or India for that cases, if you want to directly mention it, that these will be the countries which will be developing in the consumption of energies. So these are having a great future in consumption of energy because of course they are starting on the new projects. Of course they have said that they will be using it in a renewable energy at a more part. Also in the last part we have seen something about an optional energy, and in optional energy we have something with regards to sun, that is solar energy, wind, that is regards with windmills or wind turbines, then the water energy with regards to hydroelectric power plant or that of the tidal power plant, and the last one that is called as the biomass energy, which is in a form of present in the form of a nature widely. I hope you people have understood. Till the next lecture, study hard.